Hey, what's going on everyone? This is YoeYoursTruly back with another video, and today we have a little different video. It's going to be more a guide-oriented kind of video where essentially I'm going to give you guys kind of just an overall summary of all the stuff you need to know on how to excel and perform on all the offlaners, including the strengths and weaknesses, what they're really good into against, what they get countered by, and the kind of like core items, I would say, at least on this patch. So just a kind of heads up, things are kind of subject to change in terms of like meta, how strong a hero is, when the new hero gets pushed into offlane, or when the build that I kind of give you guys gets nerfed to oblivion, and then you have to use a different kind of build. But this should overall serve as kind of like a guide and just what to expect when you want to play all these different offlaners, and what you need to do to play them well, and what you need to do to actually counter them if you go against them in the offlane. So I'll be kind of going over these 10 offlaners to start, and I do have my other stuff pulled up, so like I'm using this as a template and also this as kind of like just visual guides on how to like show you what items are really good and kind of like what heroes are strong to count by, etc. So without further ado, let's kind of jump straight into Countess. Countess is kind of like one of my OG mains when I first saw early access. She's definitely someone that's more akin to a pump stopper, that very strong in the lower elos, but then she kind of starts to fall off in like kind of higher elos. So kind of like the big issue with Countess in particular is that she's someone that can be pretty like easy to counter in the offlane. That's because Countess offlane is kind of like a scaling kind of matchup. You kind of think of it as a Shinbi kind of scaling offlaner. The only difference is Countess the much more riskier kind of offlaner to play, because she has really no mobility once you get caught out, where someone like Shinbi can just dash away and farm and fall with her Q, right? But there's also another reason that you guys may not have thought, and that's because of passive is reliant on takedowns. The whole big thing about like offlaners and when you're playing like the lane phase is you want to utilize your passive. Like think of the Grux passive, really just able to W key and run down people. Or think like the Feng Mao passive, that you play around the passive of Feng Mao's passive and just get to really chunk people through really consistently. But Countess doesn't have a passive that doesn't really do anything in the offlane, like because she has to get kills. But the issue with in the offlane in particular is it's a role you're not necessarily always going to get kills on, right? If you play like mid lane, you can probably get more kills, more assists, and kind of start stacking it up, or even in the jungle. I think jungle counts is probably where she's best at right now, especially with this latest patch. But we're all talking about Countess offlane, and right now it's like she's someone that struggles a bit in the early game because she needs to scale up. Also, she doesn't have a passive to work around. But there are ways you can make her work in the offlane, and that's you just very reliant on your 3 abilities right here, right? Your alternate ability is very good for kind of nice sustain. If you're in a matchup where you're getting poked out a lot, it's actually quite good to max this alternate ability out first, because it's a very good healing skill. If you get early levels into it, you can actually sustain pretty well through the laning phase. Normally I like to go max Advertise first, just for the more raw damage. But if I'm in a matchup where I need to just survive a little bit better, I'm like getting poked out a lot, then I go for Blade Siphon maxed out right here. But essentially, when you're playing Countess offlane, you really have to play through your like cooldowns. Like you can't really just walk up and really get into the range of a melee kill if you don't have your abilities, because your abilities is how you can kind of outplay and trade with your opponent, especially Shadow Slip. Shadow Slip is that ability you really want to use as effectively as you can, because this is how you juke abilities. Like this is a dodge ability where you temporarily don't get targeted or hit by any abilities. So let's say a Quant's trying to accuse you, like use his abilities on you. If you time this right, you can just completely dodge that, and that's a very big key component on how to survive in the offlane. That counts, is you really need to be really good at like using your primary ability well, because that's how you can initiate your trading and also just dodge abilities out. If you're not able to really use your Q that well, you're gonna find yourself kind of struggling in the offlane. And of course, your E is your main like kind of wave clear ability. If it gets risky to step up the wave, that's when you use your E to kind of try to farm as best you can and from afar. And of course, Feast is how you do a bit more burst damage. I usually, in the offlane, I use this as a kind of a defensive tool, and what I mean by that is until you hit like your first 2 items, you're actually gonna struggle a little bit on like being able to finish people off or just 100C with them, especially offlaners. So most of the time, if a Crunch or Grux try to just get on top of me, that's when I use Feast, because that's just a very good suppression silence that can kind of like turn the fight around, because that gives you just time to essentially just walk out or just maybe be able to outplay. But until you get your levels online, the face is just mostly really good to use as kind of like a defensive tool to turn around an engagement on you. But yeah, that's kind of like the big thing I can give you on Countess. Now let's go to her matchups. Well, like I think Countess offlane is someone that does best into like kind of like more scaling offlaners or offlaners that doesn't have as much other game threat. So she's actually really good into Sevarog. Like Sevarog kind of scales up, so it can be kind of hard to deal with him as the game goes on, but I'm really not afraid of like going to a Sevarog offlane because most of the time he doesn't have that huge kill threat. His ability is very telegraphed. If you try to root you or use ultimate, use your Q to dodge that and just kind of keep going at it. Because if you can just get a easy matchup and just focus on farming, then that's just how you can really just snowball and kind of take over the game when you go to team fights and just when you look to kind of just 100-0 people from across the map. So she's also going to be very good into Shinbi because Shinbi is also someone that needs to kind of scale up, and I think Countess is a hero that actually outscales the Shinbi. Even though both the Shinbi is a very good scaler, Countess just kind of just dumps on her a bit. Like her ultimate is just so strong because it's just a suppression. Like any CC ability coupled with a huge amount of burst damage can really just shut down any assassin, and that includes Shinbi right here. I almost want to say like she's strong to Grux, but this is honestly more of a skill matchup. Like whenever I see a Grux and I play Countess, I can easily just farm and deal with the Grux because the big thing about when you go play into Grux, it has very limited range, and that range is very predictable, right? When the having range is very predictable, you can play around it and farm safely, I would say. And so like the big thing is like when you get your items online, that's when you can just keep using your 3 abilities on Weep, just kind of whittling them down until they get low enough. And Grux can't really do anything because he has very limited options to really kind of get on top of you. So long as you stay outside of his E and Q range, you can just essentially just keep queuing on him, using abilities, back out, use all your abilities, back out, and then now he's no HP and he has to back off, right? But just know that this is more like a skill matchup, I would say, at the end of the day, because I see some players. Because like the big thing is like I can say Countess is strong into these heroes, but obviously it comes down to also player skill. But if you were to put someone really good in Countess and someone on equal skill against her, then this is what I'm kind of seeing in my opinion. Now what she gets countered by? She gets countered by quite a bit of options like Crunch. Just like Crunch has a double arm B. It can really be hard to outspace the Crunch. She also got the knock up, so it can be hard to really get avoid, gain knock up, and avoid his damage, I would say. Someone like a Riktor is actually quite good into Countess because the big thing about Countess is you want to be playing the whole trading pattern. Use your ability, trade with the Riktor, or trade with the hero, get them low enough, and then bring them back off, or you have that threat of killing them. But Riktor has the passive where you can keep eating up your abilities for free. So by the time your rotation abilities comes online, his passive also comes online. But also, he has a ton of CC sounds, stuff to kind of shut down the Countess, and he's very easily techable into like these kind of like items counter her, like the magic defense items. And lastly, a nice counter to her is just the steal. Gotta be a little bit mindful when you're playing steal is that like Countess could technically outscale the steal, but steal just all needs to do just kind of slap her in the face with the arm B, and then that's just a lot of damage she's gonna keep taking because she's an assassin at the end of the day. So it's quite easy for the steal to just do whatever he wants, and Countess is not gonna be able to do as much in that lane without getting CC locked by the steal. As for the builds you want to do for Countess, I always like my whole Mega Cosm item, so let me get this all set up. Mega Cosm definitely one that is the best item, especially against bruisers, because it does HP damage, and you need that item to go against your bruiser kind of opponents. And so the quest I like to go personally is Magician quest into Soul Build. You can make an argument for going like Opulist, but then you get to like mana issues, and Countess is offline. You're someone you want to use your abilities quite often, or else you can't sustain. So I like to go like more Magician quest into Soul Build, which I would personally like. Movement speed, get that shield on me so I can take a little bit more damage. But also that magical life shield can be pretty great on Countess in combination with her base kit. Second item I normally like to do, there's a couple of different routes, but I think the safest bet is Waste Leggings, just more burst damage, movement speed great, and then Caustica. So you can think of this as a core build you can't go wrong with. Plenty of damage right here. Caustica is a great damage too, Magic Pen is good, but also you just don't run out of mana. If you find yourself running out of mana pretty fast already, then you go Caustica second, Waste Leggings third. But this is a core build path that I personally really like. And when I'm doing this builds, by the way, I'm just gonna be talking about like the core items, and whatever is kind of less flexible. So when you want to finish this build, I'll just go more like magical power. So probably just go like, for example, Oblivion Crown, and then like Tank Scepter is one way. You can go more tanky with Lifebind and Roadbreak. It's up to you how you want to take your last 2 items right there. But moving on to the second hero, it's gonna be everyone's favorite boxing robot, and that is Crunch right here. So obviously Crunch is someone that has always been great in the offlane, sort of fallen off a little bit. His jungle option is a little bit more popular nowadays because the big thing about Crunch is it's kind of easy to play around him in the sense that a lot of tanks just kind of shut him off because he's someone that really does not like CC. Anything that interrupts his combos is going to really hurt him, but either way, he's always going to have a good early game because of his just whole base kit. He has a very solid trading building, which is the left crunch. That's when you want to max out first. He can follow up with the right crunch, and then of course you have the mobility with the forward crunch. And your passive is also what helps you have that bit of an early game kind of edge, because every time you use your ability, you should try to follow up with your basic attack because you do bonus damage to your opponent. So a lot of times when you're using crunch in the offlane, you're using like, let's say for example, you do left crunch, auto attack, right crunch, auto attack, and that's how you keep proccing your passive, because every time you use your ability, you're doing additional damage on your next basic attack. So that's always what makes crunch early game great, because he had a source of extra damage that's not on the cooldown. And of course, he starts to really come online as soon as he gets weak points. This is where you can start to get really aggressive on your opponent, because you just have like power abilities. If you want to do maximal damage, you can power left crunch to do shoot damage. If you're looking to really take a standard fight and block down people, that's when you're doing power knock up. Then power forward crunch is a bit more situational in the sense that you want to use it if you really want to push them like out of position. Like for example, let's say a Grux is trying to gank your left lane, but you're right smack middle of the lane. You can use the empower forward crunch, push them towards your turret, and give crunch a better way to get on top of them without walking so forward as much. So forward crunch and power is always more like a situational thing at the end of the day. As to what heroes it's going to be good for crunch to counter, let me get this set up. He's going to be someone that can be really good against like the more like scaling kind of matchups. So like Sevarog, he's been like the classic counter to Sevarog, because crunch builds items that's good against Sevarog anyways, like Mutilator, and he can just really put a lot of push on Sevarog. And the CC on Sevarog is something you can play around with, I would say, so it's not too bad to go against him. He's also someone great into Greystone. Greystone is someone that it's very like a sustained fighter, and so the big thing about crunch, he can always outtrade the Greystone because he can just left crunch all attack walk away, whereas Greystone needs to get his empower 3 basic attacks or like his key ability off. So long as you respect his sustained damage of Greystone, you just play around the fact that your damage comes out way faster than Greystone, just abuse that in the matchup. And again, like this is what we talk about on the flip side, like when we talk about counters, Countess is really good into like a counter. It's really just bully her, just always getting top of her whenever he wants to, I would say. As to what he gets countered by, he does not like CC at all, so he's already not liking the Riktor and Steel matchup right here. But also, there's some really kind of tricky bruiser matchups too. Like for example, trying to fight Grux is pretty tricky because Grux is someone that kind of just stat checks any physical bruiser. And the thing with Crunch is that it's a very interesting like skill matchup. Well, as long as you respect the sustained damage from Grux and his ultimate, Crunch can usually win out in early to mid game. Like the issue is it's a late game Crunch against late game Grux. It's like Grux will just win that outright. They're both at the point where they're really durable, they can't really kill each other really fast, and when Grux just gets passive online and his ultimate, Crunch can really just beat him in an all-out brawl, I would say. So just know that you have an advantage against the Grux offlane, but eventually you will get outscaled by the Grux in this case. As to what builds that you want to run in Crunch, just kind of the standard builds is something that's always been very good on Crunch. So something like a Icicle Talon is very solid on him, into like a Mutilator and Augmentation. And after this, you can treat this as your core items, and then you can kind of tech after these 3 items. If I'm against a physical based matchup, for example, I can go Citadel. Citadel has actually been popping up recently, so it's actually not that bad of an item on Crunch if you want to build more damage but also be durable enough, I would say. So besides that kind of build, you can do something a little bit more interesting, and that is go for the more tanky Crunch build, which is going to be kind of like a Sapphire's mental overload kind of stuff. It looks kind of weird at first, but I tried it myself and I was quite surprised to see how well this actually performs, because essentially you just turn Crunch into someone that can usually get shut out by burst damage and CC to someone that can take all of that and still dish out plain damage by himself. So you go for this build that's more prioritized on the scaling component of Sapphire's mental overload, just HP, and then just build more like physical booster items right here. So you actually like go Basilisk. Like Basilisk is someone that's an item that's been really kind of popping off recently too, and so it's kind of like a cold build route on like a Crunch, I would say, if you want to go for the more tanky option. So I'll leave you guys up to your decision what you want to go with. Both of them are pretty solid. The whole Mutilator, Ice One Talents, or this Overlord Sapphire's Mental right here. Alright, next hero is going to be Feng Mao. Feng Mao has been someone that's been kind of a menace in offlane to the point where he got nerfed a couple of times back to back, but he's still someone that's very strong, and it's largely due to the fact of his passive. His passive is very, very strong for trading, because essentially you're always going to be doing current health as bonus physical damage, and so this is just a free, just 6% max HP kind of damage. It's not even tied to your ability, it's tied to your passive. So all you need to really do when you do offlane Feng Mao is play on your passive, give you a power auto attack, walk away, wait for your passive to come online, then walk back in and trade again, because that's just 6% max HP. Your current HP you keep doing on repeat, and it just makes his trading power pretty impressive when you combine with the fact that he has a very solid E ability, so you can get the power attack and E them. You have a shield that can take up damage, so when it Grux or whoever's trying to throw ability at you, you just eat that up with Safeguard, and of course you're always stupidly safe with the Reaping Dash. So Feng Mao is someone that has a lot of pressure in the early game, but he's also someone that can play very safe because of his whole kit in general. And of course, when you get the scale up into the room, that's when you can do the resets on your ultimate, just executing people left and right. So as for what builds you want to go, actually let's talk about the matchups first, of course. So Feng Mao is someone that can be quite good into a lot of different matchups, I would say. So someone that he's actually really good into is like Greystone, because we talk about Greystone. Like Greystone is like someone that needs to take extended trades to really win now, whereas someone like Feng Mao can take very short trades and just really abuse that, right? Every time Greystone tries to get aggro, you can just slow them with E, Q, walk away, on B, etc, right? Greystone does have a passive that blocks your basic attack, so you can block your passive once every every several seconds. So as long as you play around that and look for opportunities in between, you can really whittle down the Greystone. He's someone that can be quite good into the Shinbi early on. Shinbi, you gotta be a little bit careful of the Shinbi in the late game because she sort of just really scales hard, but you can really put in the dirt early on. So you can kind of passively farm Q from afar, but eventually she'll run out of mana pretty quickly, and when she does overstep, that's when you blink on top of her, use your abilities, and kind of run her down. And of course, like Feng Mao is actually a very good counter to Sevarog. Like he's been one of the more popular counters to the Sevarog offlane, because again his passive does max HP kind of damage, so you can really just whittle down the Sevarog, who's all about building HP through his passive and items. Matchups he sort of struggles against, he doesn't like Riktor, because like the big thing about Feng Mao offlane is he's very good into like using his passive and abusing the free damage you get that from it, but you can't do that if you have a hero in the name of Riktor with his passive where you can eat that up. So it can be quite hard to whittle down the Riktor, and when you do try to get aggro on the Riktor, that Riktor can get aggro back, get the silence, get the E damage, he can hook you, ult you, etc. So it can be kind of hard to try to do much against the Riktor if the Riktor is using his abilities really well against you. Zarus is actually someone that I consider to be really good against the Feng Mao, because the big thing about Zarus is that he has that long range on B, and every time Feng Mao takes damage, his passive cooldown gets reset. So he needs to get in and basic attack range while getting hit for his passive to be applied. But every time Feng Mao can try to walk in, you have a very long range ability in the on B of Zarus. So you can use the spear stab, and then it gets rid of the passive enhanced by Feng Mao. Not only that, but Zarus just has a great kit for locking up Feng Mao. Trying to like run away, Zarus can ult the Feng Mao. Feng Mao gets really aggressive on the Zarus. He has a shield that can eat up a lot of that burst damage, but then smack it back, do stun, do damage, and can't really lay onto him. Let's say another like good option to like the whole offlane, I would say. I would like Steel is also really solid, but I'm trying to keep it to the rule of 3 because that's what I've been doing this video. I would say someone like Grux is quite good into Feng Mao. I was sort of thinking Steel for a moment. I see Steel is pretty good to Feng Mao, but the thing with Feng Mao is once you get certain items, you just put them shove the wave in. Steel can't really take it slow and just look to roam at that point. But someone like Grux can be quite hard for the Feng Mao to deal with. Feng Mao is all about that burst DPS, but it doesn't do as good when you're going into against these more tanky boosters. So someone like Grux, as long as he's building the right items and survive your initial burst damage, you use ultimate and just got to lay it on you. You can of course avoid the Grux pretty easily with your like B, but the issue with that is that as long as Grux is in lane, he can just have really good control of the wave and just kind of freeze it, and then if you want to try walk up and try to farm, that's when Grux will immediately punish you and you can't really do much against that. As for items that's going to be good for the Feng Mao, you just go for the more like assassin kind of tech. So something like Next, you always want to do that for your burst damage. You want to go into Mind Razor as your first item because that's when you can instantly clear the wave, but also you get the mana off that you need to really sustain with your abilities. Flame Reaper is really solid second, just more movement speed, more penetration. And then lastly, Perforator, more penetration, and also you just slow down people even more so it's even harder for people to run away from you. And of course, after these two items, you kind of tech into whatever pen options you want. You can go Dread, you can go Deathstalker, just whatever like pen items you want to go last, you can definitely go for that. As for our next hero, we're gonna go for Greystone right here. Talk about Greystone quite a bit in our first 3 heroes. But the big thing about Greystone you gotta realize is that Greystone wants to take extended trades to really have that pressure early game. Because his early game damage is really not bad at all. The issue you run into is the whole like in certain matchups where you're going against a Grux, a Crunch, a Feng Mao that has like that high quick damage, and then you also just very extended. It can be quite easy to play around that, I would say. And so the big thing that Greystone offers though is that survivability and his ultimate ability. You can really stall out lane so good with your ultimate, as long as you don't like die too often or get too low too often. You can just keep baiting them to go on you to try to kill you. You just use your ultimate, get second life. They kind of shrunk from trying to attack you and you're already healthy. So the best way to kind of win lane with Greystone is just to get to 6. Get aggressive with the training patterns, get them low to HP, you get the low HP, but use your ultimate to get HP back, and your opponent still low HP. And you can use that to have a lot of pressure, because like when they can't really stay in lane with you and they keep going on you pretty aggressively, it's just like, sorry, give me a sec. I guess what I'm trying to say is like use your ultimate as like a resource ability. Your ultimate, you can treat it as like 150% of your max HP, in the sense that like you're gonna have more HP than your opponent every time, right? So you abuse that, right? Get them low enough, use your ultimate, and then now they're stuck in a situation where they want it back, but you're gonna keep pushing into the tower, right? So that's kind of like how you win that lane. It's just as long as you don't die and use your ultimate whenever it's off cooldown, it can be really hard for people to kill you, and you stay in lane long time to keep farming up and just become quite of a menace in the mid to late game fights where it's just really hard to kill while you're still dishing out plenty of damage, right? Sorry, I'm trying to adjust the music just a little bit. It's my first time like trying to use this different kind of background music, I would say, so I'll just skip ahead right here. But essentially, for your next item, for what heroes that Greystone can't be good against, let me get this set up right here. Sorry, it's a little scuff, but this is how I kind of envision this gonna work out well. So obviously, Greystone's going to be good into matchups where he can take extended trades quite easily. So I know I'm putting a lot of heroes strong into Sevarog right here, but Sevarog is someone that can kind of get easily bullied out of lane, I would say. But when we get to later heroes, they're not going to be as good into Sevarog all the time. Just these first initial heroes just have to be strong into Sevarog right here. And so like it's quite easy to take extended trades. Sevarog is a kind of more sustained tank, and so you can pretty easily match that with your own like DPS right here, I would say. Another hero that Greystone can be good into, it's gonna be like what's a good example right here? I'm gonna say Crunch. It's kind of weird because I talk about like the whole like Greystone is not so great into like some of these more like DPS kind of matchups, like quick DPS. But the big thing about like going to Crunch is that like whenever I see this matchup plays out, Crunch gets Greystone low, but Greystone uses ultimate and just like resets, and then Crunch is low and can't really do much. It's the big thing, right? And so like when you want to, so that's what I mean by you play through your level 6, right? You can easily kind of play around the Crunch abilities. The only thing that is a little tricky is the knock up, where he knock you up and he walks away. But before that, you can match some of the aggression that Crunch can put out to you, because your passive gives you a bunch of free stats and you have a good sustained DPS. You don't have to be mindful once Crunch hits 6, but that's when you hit 6 as well, and that is when you can put on some serious hurt on him. And then when you get low, use your ultimate, force the Crunch out, because if you can deny the Crunch kills, Crunch can snowball. You outscale the Crunch in team fights especially. And so lastly, I'm trying to think what's another third hero we can probably take Greystone into. I would say I think Greystone is someone that can actually be quite good to Riktor, in my opinion, when I'm just looking through the list. Because Riktor is someone that likes to take extended trades, but Greystone is someone that likes that as well. So you can kind of match the DPS of Riktor, or rather, as soon as Riktor abilities are down, you have an advantage in your like auto attacks and the passive, really just putting on the serious hurt in the long term. You want to be mindful of Riktor just silencing you, especially when you're trying to ult. Riktor can silence you last second to kill you off. So this is one of those matchups well. You probably want the ult earlier just so you don't get CC locked down and not get your ultimate off. As to what heroes Greystone is not so great into, one of them is gonna have to be Zarus. Zarus can easily just poke out the Greystone. He can like really just like keep the Greystone at arm's length, and then really just keep poking the Greystone out of lane, because Zarus is all about the quick jabs and then backing off, and Greystone is all about the extended trades. And so every time Greystone wants to really force something, like Greystone leaps onto Zarus, Zarus can stun him, walk away, or just ease and dash away. So it can be really hard to do much against the Zarus, because his poke is really hard to deal with when your abilities are very like sustained or like kind of long to try to get out. Greystone is someone that doesn't like going to Grux. Grux can kind of just stat check the Greystone, I would say, and Grux is someone that does a little bit better to Greystone for the fact that the only thing that Greystone got going for him to get away from Grux is his leap. And so if the Grux can anticipate your leap, he can easily just follow you up with his knock up E dash, and then you're just really stuck and you're dead. You have some ways of course with your ultimate, but it's gonna be really hard to really farm in the lane when you have like this very oppressive matchup right here. Lastly, Greystone doesn't like Shinbi because, again, he wants to take extended fights and really kind of trade out, but Shinbi can easily just like outrange him, keep poking down with the Q, and then even when you try to ult and trying to get your health back, Shinbi stacks doesn't reset on you, so she can get on top of back on you and use your A stacks, and you are very dead. As to what items that you want to go on Greystone, you just want to go for the more booster route. So there's going to be like an Ice Golem Talons, there's going to be like an Overload, and it's going to be like a Basilisk. Just kind of very standard kind of booster kind of itemization. These items can really help empower you while also making yourself kind of durable. Because you want to go for items that can like build HP, because your ultimate scales on your HP right here. So the more HP you have, the more health you will regain on your ultimate. So you really want to prioritize items that builds you HP while still doing damage. So after these items, that's when you can probably go into more HP booster items. So like Tainted Blade is not bad at all on him, get some more HP, get to like counter like some of the healing. Citadel is also very solid on him. Actually, you probably want to go Citadel as your third core item if you can. And then like Tainted Blade is a tech option, and then last item could be like a tank option too. So you don't have to go full booster, you can go more durable. So like Waymaker can be really hard, 600 HP is a ton of HP for your ultimate, and then just makes you very durable, all that health regen you got going right there. Alright, next up is Grux right here. You know, is everyone's favorite or most hated rhino. He's just someone that either wants you down or you want him down bad. And I say that because Grux is kind of like Countess in the sense he's a pump stopper, and it gets starts to fall off in the late game, or not in the late game, but in the higher elos, but not as hard because in some matchups Grux can really just dominate and just can't take control of the lane. You just gotta be mindful for the fact that the mobility on this rhino is very limited. If you get ganked out of bad position, there's just you either kill them or they kill you. There's no ifs or buts in between, right? So you have to be very mindful that you're very vulnerable when you do get ganked. You're very vulnerable to CC as well. But if you're able to just to kind of W keep hitting those people with your ultimate, that's when you can really start to put on some serious hurt and be unkillable. So obviously you want to play on your overpain. That's most of the time you've been using the ability to trade with your opponents, and then when you want to really put on the serious hurt, that's when you engage with your E and just be able to knock them up to get some free damage off. Wave Clear is also very good on Grux with his smashing grab. And so for what heroes that the Grux is going to be good into, let me just get this all set up once again. Grux is someone that's going to be, again, really good into certain matchups like the Sevarog. Like Grux is actually one of those great options to counter the Sevarog, because again, Sevarog wants to walk up and farm, but Grux can be really oppressive in the sense that he will not let anyone just kind of walk up for free, just kind of like goes on them and just do a lot of sustained damage. Sevarog can easily outmaneuver the Grux, but all you need to do in this matchup as Grux is just to like deny the Sevarog all the farm and just really just make it miserable for Sevarog just kind of farm up right there. Again, as we talked earlier about Greystone, Grux is just a very good count to Greystone, just being able to really just make it hard for the Greystone to walk up and just really outstrade him really hard in the sustained damage department. And lastly, Grux is someone that I consider be really good to Zarus, because the thing about Zarus is that he relies on keeping you at arm's reach and just trying to use your RB to poke you out. But with Grux, on the other hand, he's someone that can easily just like engage with E on B and just get a bunch of free trade before Zarus can do anything. Because a lot of times Zarus can like kind of outmaneuver some abilities. When you do get onto him, that's when you use his Q to block a lot of damage. But when you engage with E first on Grux, he can't do anything while he's knocked up, can't use Q, E can't do anything. So as long as you play with your E and on B, on Grux you can kind of get some free trades on Zarus, and he can't really do anything about it. And of course, when Zarus tries to cage you in, that's what you want. You want the 1v1 action, so you just ult and you just really just stash check the Zarus to oblivion. As to what heroes the Grux gets counted by, he really gets counted to by the CC kind of tanks. He doesn't really like tanks. He likes the Sevarog tank, but he does not like the steel, which is a tank that can CC him and really just kind of like keep him locked down. The Riktor into the Riktor is more like a skill matchup. Like if you play really well, you can easily get around the whole Riktor kind of support. Not the offlane, but at the same time, Riktor, if he's really good at his abilities, he can set you up to get easily gankable, but also just turn around fights and build items that can be really good against you. And lastly, another great counter to the Grux, it has to be the Shinbi. Shinbi can easily stay away from Grux, just keep queuing the Wave can keep queuing the Grux. Grux can't really do anything about that, and Shinbi can someone that can really outscale Grux pretty hard, like a Mega Cousin first, and that's when she can keep stacking Q on you, get you low HP, and then just try to all in you and kill you before you can do anything about that. As for what items you want to go on our favorite rhino, you just want to go for the more like standard bruiser build. Once again, I personally really like going the whole Bonesaw, because Grux is someone that can be vulnerable to burst damage and CC, so just slap on a bunch of HP while building an item that's very good for his sustained trading pattern, and you have a very cook item on him. And Basilisk is just a second item. His basic, it just enhances basic attacks to do even more damage and shred through armor. So after these three, your last three items, it's kind of more up to you what you want to do. Some people like to do the Sky Split attack. I personally don't like that as much at times because it makes Grux pretty squishy. So I usually like to go more HP bruiser on him. So like, let's say for example, the item Citadel is really solid. Tainted Blade, for example, Salvation Third. Just you have all these different HP options you can go on Grux that can really help out the DPS of this Gruxy boy right here. And so for our 6th hero, good into like a lot of matchups because of his passive. Like this is the passive I'm talking about where like as long as you play him on your passive, you just eat up a bunch of damage for free, right? So it can make it quite hard to trade with the Riktor. It can be quite oppressive from time to time, right? So you really just have to play around your passive, because if you launch play your passive, you can really just like outtrade anyone in the lane. So, and also like most of the time in the lane phase, you want max Q because that's your main way to get consistent trade on him. But there's nothing wrong with going max E if you really want to. And just know that you have to really play around your E, because your E is also your wave clear tool. So you have to choose between trading with your opponent or clearing the wave. But don't clear the wave too much, because if Riktor's push up too much, he can be easily gankable, has no way to really get out, I would say. And of course, when you're playing with against your opponent, try and get them low enough to where you can use your ultimate right in front of their face. You can get a guaranteed follow up with your hook, just CC them down, kill them, and then they can hopefully be dead if you get them low enough with this whole combo. So as for what matchups this Riktor is going to be really good against, I think he's someone that's going to be really good into Crunch. Like, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but essentially you just shut down Crunch abilities with all this like damage and all that great stuff. You want to definitely, you definitely want to play more defensively, I would say. You have to like play the whole into like you can try like engage the Crunch first, but most of the time it's easiest to let the Crunch try to engage on you first. Then you just silence him, you can hook him. It makes it really easy to do all your follow-up damage, and when he's engaged on you first, he's also in the minion wave, I would say. So as long as you play around that fact, I think you're gonna be quite easy to just trade with the Crunch. He's also good into Feng Mao because again, like you can either Feng Mao passive, and it can be really hard for Feng Mao to really wear you down in that matchup. Lastly, he's going to be great into Zarus because again, Zarus is all about poking you out, but Riktor can have that shield that can really eat up the damage on Zarus' spear and just kind of like have that really good all-in 1v1 with the Zarus, especially with the items you can build to counter him. As for what heroes get countered by, he gets countered by like Grux, because the Grux bleed can make it hard for you to get your shield back on time, I would say. So like it can be really hard to play on your passive when every time Grux apply bleed to you, you're stuck even longer without your shield, and Grux can kind of just run you down a lot easier than you can try to counter him back. Riktor is someone that's also going to be not so great into, I would say, I'm gonna say like the Greystone. I think we were talking about that earlier too. Like Greystone can match the sustained damage pretty well, and he's someone that can really just like be hard to kill for you as a Riktor because of his ultimate. And so like it can be quite hard to really just fully lock down the Greystone and kill him when he gets all his HP back and you don't get any of yours back. Lastly, I think one other matchup you could have Riktor be not so good into. Actually, I don't know if there's like a solid third I can recommend. Like I have these potential picks. Well, I was gonna be talking about them, but I'm looking at how long this video is going. I might not be able to talk about these potential picks. I think I'm gonna stick with the 10 for now. But if I were to say you're going against like a Zarus or Collide, then he's very good at these two options right here. As to what heroes, what items that Riktor is going to be really liking a lot. He's going to like a bunch of HP because his shield, his E ability skills on HP. So you want to build more durable, more tanky, as a kind of tank at the end of the day. So Fire Blossom, you always want to go first. You need that for the damage and AoE clear. I like to go Surface Mentor as the quest. Just really just get as much HP on this bad boy as possible. And after this, that's when you kind of tech into options. So against the physical matchup, physical armor. If you get the magical matchup, go like magical defense. And Riktor is someone that's a little bit more of an aggressive tank. So I like to try to give Wall Breaker as a third, fourth item to really make sure that he takes advantage of all the HP he's building and just do a lot of good damage in the mid game as well. Alright. As for the next hero, Sevarog. Sevarog is someone that it's known to be a late game scaling menace, right? But like the big thing about Sevarog in particular is that like he's has this requirement of trying to like farm as much as he can, right? So if you get the matchups where it makes it really hard to farm, that means that it takes even longer for him to get online and do what Sevarog does best and just be that unkillable behemoth, right? And so the big thing you want to be mindful of is that like you need to just play the survive game. You're not really gonna have that much kill threat, so you just need to focus on just getting your stack, because even if you don't get the kills, what you need to get is the stacks. If you get the stacks, you win the game in the long run because of all the skill you get from your abilities and all that great stuff. Alright, so on to what heroes that you want to play Sevarog onto. Sevarog is someone that can easily get shut down by a lot of offlaners, so it's quite hard to play him offlane nowadays, but you can still do good against certain matchups, I would say. So one good matchup that he can be good against has to be I would just say Zarus to start off. I think Sevarog is someone that can take this poke damage from Zarus. If Zarus gets too aggro on the Sevarog, he has the root, he has the knock up, he has ways to outplay the Zarus. Like your knock up can actually knock Zarus out of his cage, and that's when you can like really just deny him his ultimates or just engages on you. And Zarus is someone that's more like doesn't really have that high sustained damage as the game goes on unless you're wearing a certain build on him. So you eventually get to the point where Zarus just can't kill you anymore. So a lot of you play into that long haul, you can be really good into Zarus in the long run. Another matchup that I would say Sevarog is good into it has to be the Riktor. I think Sevarog can easily, like, you have to be a little bit mindful of like the CC that the Riktor can put on you to try and lock you down, but again, like Sevarog just kind of outscales a lot of matchups, so he's actually good into steal too. Like Sevarog is that almost like an anti-tank in the sense that like he's a tank that can scale way better than all the other tanks we have currently in the game, and he can easily 1v1 them in the long run. So he's so very good against the Riktor and steal in the long run. So you can keep shoving down the lane, steal Riktor won't have the DPS to shut you down unless you build items to counter their damage. And of course, Sevarog does not like the really aggressive matchups, I would say. So he does not like the Grux, he does not like the Feng Mao, he does not like the Greystone, he does not like the Crunch right here too. So Sevarog is someone that can struggle a bit against these really aggressive matchups that can have high sustained damage, I would say. So just gotta be a little bit mindful when you're going against these like matchups, is that you're gonna be in for some serious hurt if there's someone that can really chunk you out of fights and just freeze the wave and you can't really farm at all. As to what builds, it's kind of like very similar to what Riktor is. Like I personally like doing Fire Blossom first. I know some people don't like doing Fire Blossom because it makes it harder to stack with Sevarog, but you kind of, Fire Blossom is just a nuts item at the moment. You want this item to really have that sustained DPS for your siphons and all your abilities, and also just it helps you with the wave clear in the long run too. If you don't get Fire Blossom, your wave pushing can be pretty slow, so getting Fire Blossom can help you push out waves faster, so more threat for split pushing, but also helps you take steal camps easier when you have Fire Blossom, right? As your quest, definitely Sephiroth's mentor is very, very solid on the Sevarog right here. And again, you just take into items, so like physical defense against physical matchups, etc, etc. And definitely want to get Wall Breaker somewhere in there too, because especially on Sevarog, you build a ton of free HP from your passive, so that goes more and more to Wall Breaker. So you can go 5 hours in Wall Breaker as your pure like more like defensive offensive damage, and then everything else can be more purely defensive options like Stonewall, Tanking Bastion, etc, etc. Onto our favorite K-pop star, Shinbi. Shinbi is someone that used to be pretty impressive in the whole like offlane, right? But ever since enough for mana, she's someone that can go through a mana much faster. So you have to be very mindful of not using your Q too much while your line tempo. If you use this too much in the laning phase, you'll find yourself like having to back off or not have any abilities to really go into lane. So when you play Shinbi, you pretty much almost go to you're just using your Q, right? Not even using your E to really trade, because your E doesn't really help you do that much damage early on unless you can Mega Cosm and if you're trying to stack with your ultimate. So most of the time you're prioritizing using your Q, and then your other ability to use it as you need it, right? So as for items you want to go on Shinbi, I would say. Shinbi is someone that definitely wants Mega Cosm first. That's just like one of the better items on Shinbi to really kind of bust down these tanks, and just she's very good at proccing them. As for quests, I see arguments for both cases. I think for someone like Shinbi, you can give way for going more Artless if you want to maximize your damage, but also have some nice extra health sustain. But if you find yourself running out of mana too quickly, then I recommend just going a Magician quest to help you get through the lane phase a bit better on Shinbi. As for your second item, I really like Time Warp actually. Time Warp is actually a solid item on Shinbi with the ability cooldown you get from it, but also serves as a sustain option. So you can treat this as your pure sustain item, and as long as you don't keep spamming abilities too hard, you don't really have to go for more mana sustain items like Casca later down the road. After that, I kind of like to just go more like pure stats, so Waste Laking is very solid. So you can treat this as kind of like your core build right here if you want. And after that, if you want to build more durable Shinbi, you can go like Lifeline and World Breaker. I've seen some arguments you can take Waste Laking down, go World Breaker, so you can treat these as your 3 core items. So I think definitely want to get World Breaker as a 3rd or 4th item for a Shinbi build. Alright, last 2 heroes. Now let's talk about Steel. The very traditional tank that's always been top of the meta, and it's because he has a very overloaded kit. And what I mean by that is all his abilities are just so good. His shield bash is just a very easy, just stun right in your face. This is his main training pattern. So this is what makes it really hard to lane against you, because he just stuns you, does a lot of damage, he walks away, and you really can't do much about that. And every time he does CC you, he gets a shield, so that makes it even harder. Like he CCs you, you try to attack him, but then his passive eats up a lot of that damage. Q, which is very strong. That's his way to engage, disengage, or just put more CC on you, because you knocked back people you hit, so you can CC chain with your on B, your Q, and then your ultimate is just disgusting. You've always so good in like the team fights, and it can also be used to secure kills in the offlane. As to what heroes that the Steel is gonna be really good against, I think I actually forgot to do the Shinbi right here. That's my bad. I think I forgot to do Shinbi matchup. So let me do like the Shinbi matchup right here. Sorry, it's gonna be a little scuffed because I totally forgot to do it, but we're at 47 minutes. This taking longer than I thought. I do apologize, but Shinbi's gonna just be really good against people that she can easily outrange. So someone like the Grux can be really good. Shinbi can be really good against Zarus because she can actually outspace the Zarus and just poke him down and have a lot of high DPS that it can be hard for Zarus to try to like survive through while he's trying to like kill you. Lastly, she's someone that can be really good into, I would say she's someone that's pretty dang good to steal, because like Shinbi is someone that can kind of like outspace the steal once again, but she just outscales the steal really hard, and the item she builds is gonna shred through steal defenses. So as long as you play one of the steal abilities, you can actually get a pretty easy lane phase and be able to kill the steal no problem at all as the game goes on. As for what heroes Shinbi gets countered by, Countess can easily stay in lane against the Shinbi, and then she outscales this Shinbi right here. Shinbi definitely does not like the Riktor. Riktor can eat up the Shinbi Qs and has that CC lockdown to really conjure zero her. Lastly, Shinbi is someone that I would say it's not really liking the Feng Mao. Like, you can eventually outscale the Feng Mao, but Feng Mao scales really well at the end of the day anyway, so it just makes it really hard, because if you step up one too many steps, Feng Mao music gets on top of you and does a lot of DPS that you just can't really ignore, right? So now that we talked about Shinbi, let's actually talk about Steel now. And of course, we can always just talk about Shinbi just being really good against the Steel, so let's leave it at that. Steel is also very good, and so the Grux, just now letting the Grux do whatever he wants. Steel is going to be very good, and to the Countess, right, he's very good just shutting down these bruisers in the offlane by himself. And lastly, he's someone that can be really good against the Greystone. Like, just not really able to let the Greystone do his insane damage. You just smack him, then walk away. That's all you really need to do. And as to what Steel gets countered by, he was like the Sevarog. Sevarog kind of outscales the Steel. Steel can put a lot of hurt on the Sevarog early on, but eventually you can't really tickle this weight boss anymore, and then he's gonna keep shoving the lane into your towers, and you can't do anything to clear that out. Actually, Steel is someone that doesn't like Zarus actually. Like, Zarus is someone that can do better to Steel because you still can poke you, Zarus can poke you down and Steel can't be in range immediately to stun him. So like, Zarus, a good Zarus player would be very good at poking you out, and eventually he will just kind of outscale you in a sense, so it can be really hard to match this pressure from Zarus as the game goes on and on, more so. As to what items that the Steel really liked, of course it's going to be the traditional tanky item. So of course Fire Blossom is definitely a must that you want to go on Steel, and also you just go more take option once again, so physical for physical matchups, etc. And so I kind of like personally like going Zephyr's Mental or Razorback if you want to be more pure tank. And then lastly, you just kind of just do whatever. I don't think you need Wall Breaker on someone like Steel, so you can kind of focus on going more maximum defense, so like these kind of items, for example. Alright, and we're on to our last hero for today, and that is Zarus, my favorite offlaner personally at the moment. He's just someone that always been pretty flexible into any matchup and just being able to do some really great stuff. Like, it's because he's always been a really consistent offlane because he has everything he wants. He has the mobility to get out games. He has that very solid trading pound, which is on B, very safe, very reliable. He gets bonus physical power, but also gets heal when he's not fighting people. His Q is very good for disengaging, just turning fights around. He just kind of have everything you want in the offlaner. So I just find him to be really good into most matchups in the game. Just a very good blind pick in the offlane. Alright, so as to what heroes that the Zarus is going to be really good into, of course, I think we kind of touched up on a lot of stuff already. Oh, I'm kind of doing that by accident, but he's someone that's going to be really good to Greystone, as we talked about earlier, just very impressive. Greystone can't really trade with him at all. Zarus is also going to be quite good into like Steel, as I was talking about earlier. And lastly, he's going to be very good into Feng Mao, as we talked about earlier as well. Just these matches where you can easily just kind of outrange them, poke them out, and they really can't do anything much about it. As to what Zarus gets countered by, he's someone that doesn't do as good and gets like the Riktor. Riktor eats up all his poke, as we explained earlier. Zarus doesn't really do against like Shinbi, who can actually outrange him a bit and kind of have the DPS to burst him down before he can do anything. And lastly, I would say that he gets countered by the Grux. Grux is just like very hard to play around the pressure that Grux has, as long as Grux is using that to his advantage. Alright, and for his items, I have two different builds I really like on him personally. So I'll quickly talk about both. The first is the more overload kind of build that I personally really like on Zarus, and that's just going like all this as your quest option. Then you go like Bone Overload, Bone Saw, and then into Sky's build. Just a very cool build that turns Zarus into a very good sustained DPS fighter, I would say. And then you also want to just tag, you can go more damage or more tank. As for your second item, second build, it's his more traditional build of Ice Golden Talons, Mutilator into like Citadel second. So this is a cool build path where instead of going for more sustained DPS, you go for the more burst combo DPS. So you get a lot more of a big threat to all the squishies like the mages, the ADCs, etc. And so you just couple this more with like stuff like Tainted Blade. You can go like Salvation. You can go more defensive stuff like the whole Dracona, more like Rayman Renewal. But yeah, that's gonna be about it. This has actually been turned out a lot longer of a video than I thought it was gonna be. So I guess that's just what happens when I decide I want to cover everything in terms of strengths, weaknesses, how to play each hero, what heroes they're going to account by, and what items. So I think this is very much a very comprehensive video on all these 10 offlanes we have currently in the game. Definitely over time I might look for ways to shorten this a little bit. Maybe not, I'll probably cut some stuff out just because if we get 20 offlaners, then this is gonna be a 2-hour video that I probably do not want to sit through. So I had to think about a little bit more how I want to push this in the future. So definitely let me know down in the comments what stuff you found really helpful, what stuff you probably don't find as necessary. Do you guys want to know purely the matchup and items? If so, I can probably just I'm not talking about like the base kits in general, right? But that's just up to you guys, what you guys found really helpful and what you guys have not. So any feedback is welcome, because this is something I might want to keep doing more in the future. Maybe do this for other roles, maybe this is something I do occasionally for offlane as more heroes get added and as the more the meta kind of shifts dramatically. But my throat kind of hurts, so I think I'm gonna end it off right here. So I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I hope this has been very helpful for those who's been looking to get a more comprehensive guide to all these different heroes in the offlane. So definitely let me know how you like this video down below. Thank you as always for all the amazing support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.